combat veteran, the Honorable Congressman and Representative of District 7 in Tennessee, Mark Green, is joining us. Mark, this is a good first step, but please tell me there's another step coming.
Yeah, absolutely, Michael. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, this was what we could get out of them. Kevin McCarthy basically went over to the White House on the weekend and said, we are not passing the NDAA unless the vaccine mandate is removed. And it got removed. They tried to push back a little bit on Monday and Tuesday. Secretary Austin fought it hard, but McCarthy stayed the course, and we got rid of the mandate. The next step, of course, when we're in charge, will be to pass the restitution of all these guys, back in the service that they want to go, back in reinstatement, making sure any of them that didn't get honorable discharges, all of that stuff gets fixed. We're gonna fix this issue and the trauma that it caused the men and women who, quite frankly, are willing to write that blank check for our freedom. And so
I don't think we can ever go back. And Mark, you lived this. Unfortunately, I did, and it's one of the great regrets of my life. But for people that have made the sacrifice, made the commitment, I always say no one should. I shouldn't view myself as a radio host, and I don't. That's just not good Christianity. That's not just good psyche. But the military is different. And when you're a Marine, you're a Marine. I mean, how do we ever pay this kid back what was robbed from him, and the emotional isolation and damage that's been done from this? And to your point, I think most of them, if not close to all of them, did not get honorable discharges, did they?
Well, they did not get dishonorable. They got what's called, so it's I think the technical term is under honorable conditions. So right. General discharge under honorable conditions, because we would not allow, I actually had the amendment myself that I, worked very hard to get the Democrat chairman of the committee to agree to, and we, wordsmithed it and got it to where they would at least do that. It was not a true honorable discharge. And every one of these guys, barring some other issue, deserve an honorable discharge if they're going to stay out. And if they're not going to stay out and they're going to come back, let's just bring them back in the service.
Right. What about back pay?
That's a good question. I think they should. I think they certainly deserve it.
That's going to be that's a tough political get, though, in this climate, right?
That's very difficult right now with the budget where it is, and that will be hard, but we'll fight for it.
All right, that's a biggie. What else? I have mine, but I want to see what's big in your mind. I guess what I'm asking you is, I thought that was one of the great victories yesterday. Not a complete victory, but a starting victory. I thought that was big. What was second in your mind?
There are tons of things in the National Defense Authorization Act that are good. But for example, I was able to get in there some more money for barracks up at Fort Campbell. The 1st Brigade barracks are mold-ridden, causing disease in the soldier. I mean, they're antiquated, falling apart. So I got another batch of money to help work on that. Felt very good about that. I also was able to secure an underground training facility for special operators, having been a special operator guy myself, physician for those guys anyway. I got to work with them very closely, and they do a lot of subterranean training. So we got a facility for them to train. So there's all these little things, limiting the sale of goods made by Uyghur Muslim slaves, the China stuff that I got passed. It's also important to note what's not in this thing, what we were able to keep the crazy Democrats from putting in it, like women registering for the draft, expanded access to abortions, this counseling on extremism. We were able to block that. We blocked, climate change mitigation stuff that was in there. I mean, they were taking the NDAA to their progressive heaven, and we were able to block every single one. No red flag laws in this one. I think there's a lot of good stuff in it. I think there's also a lot of bad stuff that's not, and that's important wins for us and for our team.
And funding that is necessary. There was one that I didn't. There's one. I mean, this kind of falls under what you're talking about. I can bring this up with like James Carafano, the former lieutenant colonel who's at the Heritage Foundation, and I can just leave the room for an hour. He just explodes. But the desire to bring all this cultural woke chaos and division into our military. And this kind of may fall under it, although I'm not familiar with it, and I'd like you to explain it to me. So it says it reinforces the parents of children attending DoD schools having the right to review curriculum, instructional materials, and disciplinary policies. What spurred this?
So I had someone come to me with the details of, and we had this issue pop up in Tennessee, and I'm not sure the state's fully, addressed it in the state of Tennessee, but there's pornography basically in the libraries of school systems and in the curriculum of school systems. And we found books in the DoD where they were actually teaching, like this is middle school, how to do a sexual assault. They had how to link up with books that say how you can link up for sex with adults at bathhouses and massage parlors. This is a book inside a library in a middle school in a Department of Defense school. And so I launched a big letter thing. I was on Ingram the other night about it, and we're pushing back really hard to get this changed. Well, in the National Defense Authorization Act, we inserted in there that the parents have a right to review that curriculum, which they didn't, interestingly enough, before have.
I don't have to tell you what the inflation rate is. We did manage to get those that are serving in our military a 4.6% increase in pay for our troops to kind of offset that. That was a pretty big step in the right direction as well. I would imagine it wouldn't have been was there a lot of pushback on that? That was probably not a very big fight. It's all the woke stuff, believe it or not, which is the most meaningless and really shouldn't have anything to do with, well, we're doing that with our kids, so why wouldn't we be doing it on bases with their kids? But, I mean, some of this woke stuff has nothing to do with readiness, strength, and materials and necessary resources. But it's the woke stuff that politically is the toughest fights, right?
No, absolutely. I mean, these guys, the hard left, the progressives, they want to fundamentally change the country. And they'll do it in any mechanism they can. And you think of the military, you have a captive audience, and they go after those places like education where they can have a captive audience and do their indoctrination. And so that's what they're doing now in the military, and we're obviously fighting that too.